Okay.
Okay, what's the subject this week?
Well, I was reading the first canto of the Bhagavatam again. Started reading that, and just this phrase that just jumped out to me was submissive oral reception. So, like this theme of submission, like what does it mean to submissively hear, like to submissively give oral reception to the Bhagavatam and spiritual teaching is something that's interesting to me. I don't know if you want to talk about that theme.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. Sri Rama says the first blossoming of the hearing process is the ability to put into action what you've heard. So you may think you're hearing it submissively because you're just sitting there with in an easy chair, casually, and you're being very submissive. But submissive would be that it went in, and then after you'd heard it, immediately you put it into action. Maybe because submissive has the connotation of passive, that you're thinking, I'll just passively hear it. I'll passively and submissively hear it. But to put it into practice would mean you'd have to proactively hear it. You have to be listening to it. And even if it challenged your previous experiences or opinions, you'd have to be prepared to push that aside and override it with faith in, if it's your spiritual master speaking, that he's saying this. And although I don't agree with it, I'm going to push aside my disagreement with it and submissively accept it and let that override proactively whatever reservations I have.
Interesting. It's the interesting that there's an active aspect to the hearing process in Krishna consciousness. Like it's not just like what you think hearing. Hearing means to do something, I guess.
Yeah, to assimilate. The Sambandha is you're just collecting everything, but Abhidheya is the next stage on. So you've heard this submissively, you've acquired it, and now Abhidheya. Now you're going to do something with it. Not that you just it goes in one ear, and then it goes out the other one.
Yeah, you're not just collecting; you're actually using what you've collected. I remember I asked Tarkanath, what does knowledge mean? Like Krishna says, you can remove lust with the weapon of knowledge, or you slash it with the weapon of knowledge. And he said that knowledge means practicing. It means knowledge means to act on what you've heard. That's knowledge. He gave a similar answer, which is interesting.
Yeah, same kind of idea. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Because we generally see them as two different things. I think ahead in Spanish, educado means well behaved. So it's not so much referring to accumulation of academic information, more how you conduct yourself is more a reflection of how much knowledge you have.
Yeah, because I guess if you have like an academic nature and you try to read the Bhagavad Gita and you try to like learn all of the Sanskrit and the intricacies of the Sanskrit and you really get deep into that and you read this Upanishad and that Upanishad and you cross-reference them and you get really academic about the whole situation, it doesn't necessarily mean you're acquiring transcendental knowledge.
Yeah, that your character is not changing, that you're becoming more of a pure devotee, getting closer to Krishna. And it's interesting in the 13th chapter, 8 to 12 texts, Krishna says, besides these, wherever they may be, is ignorance. And he doesn't say knowledge, knowing how to make, a spaceship that can fly to another planet, or all this type of thing. He's saying pridelessness, humility, accepting a bona fide spiritual master, perceiving the evil of the repetition of birth and death. This is the real study, the real university of life is on you learning these things. And if you're not, then ignorance means you're, to some degree or another, you're turning your back on Krishna, you're ignoring Krishna, ignorance.
Yeah.
So instead of taking you toward Krishna, which is what knowledge would do, it's taking you away from Krishna, which is completely the opposite of what knowledge is supposed to do.
It's almost as if the word knowledge doesn't give transcendental knowledge justice, like because of what we think of when we think of knowledge is something very different. Like humility, pridelessness, these kinds of things
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like knowledge when you hear the word knowledge, it's not what pops to your mind, is it?
You mentioned a student sitting down and he's filling in, and the first question is, when did you last wash your socks?
Yeah.
And the next, is your hair tidy?
Yeah.
And when was the last time you cleaned your flat? And then he fails the test because it turns out he's a moochy, smelly individual that spends most of his time in the mode of ignorance.
Interesting. So because this theme is coming up constantly, the mode of goodness, how vital it is for actually cultivating knowledge, isn't it? Like to be clean, cleanliness as an item of knowledge, and it's it's like a very practical thing we can do is cultivate the mode of goodness.
And then, so when we say knowledge as well, we don't clarify that. We just say, are you acquiring knowledge? But we don't say, are you acquiring knowledge in the mode of goodness, knowledge in the mode of passion, or knowledge in the mode of ignorance? We don't qualify it. We just say knowledge is a broad thing, but there's a lot of different types of knowledge that you can have,
Yeah, I guess your ability to perceive, because isn't it the symptom of the mode of goodness is that all of your gates are illuminated with knowledge?
Yeah.
Like your ability to perceive reality is based on the mode that you're situated in.
Yeah. It's interesting because you wouldn't normally think some of the gates would be used to perceive knowledge. But I guess the nature of the knowledge is it's all pervasive. So whatever you're engaging in, the gates are the main activity going on, and you can either be conscious that it's Krishna's energy or not conscious.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm guessing, like, if you're misusing your southern gates, like that would be not acting in knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, is that how could you? Is that means that they're not illuminated with knowledge? Like, if it's illuminated with knowledge, then you just use it for what it's meant for. Basically, is it?
Yeah. I'm not sure whether it's the 11th canto, but there is a Vedic reference that in Kali Yuga, all 9 gates of the body will be used for sex life. Just imagine, because it may also mean that you're looking at things and hearing things which are becoming a part of the experience, the sexual experience in that way. But,
yeah, we just had Vaisheshika Prabhu here for one day.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. But he was saying that as soon as you contemplate enjoying materially, that's when the suffering begins. Just the contemplation, it creates the suffering that goes along with it.
And then, was he saying that when you contemplate it and you get that suffering, that you try to relieve the suffering, and it just increases the suffering?
Yeah, this is a constant. This is the theme, because we're reading the Bhagavatam Hiranyakashipu section. So like they're talking about this. Yeah, you scratch the itch and then it bleeds. It's not. You can't satisfy it. And I was just reading as well in the Shrimpatam Svakata Krishna, the purport for that verse. Prabhupada is talking about how sinful activities are the result of material desires. So it's not the sinful activity that's the problem, it's the material desire that's the problem. And the only way to uproot material desire is by hearing submissive oral reception of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the way to actually, because then Krishna from within destroys your desire to perform sinful activities. So it's the desire to perform sins which is more heinous than the sin itself,
And also the reaction for the sins, we're thinking that the reaction, going down and getting worked over by the Yamadutas for thousands of years is the really scary reaction. But the actual real scary reaction is that when you engage in sinful activity, it increases the desires. So then you compound, so however much you're going to suffer for what you're doing, it's only going to get worse, because now the activity that you're doing, you've become conditioned by it. And now you're just going to multiply and accumulate so much more sinful reactions. And then those sinful desires don't go, when you go to suffer the reaction, And then you come back, those sinful desires are still there, because the pain and suffering doesn't free you from the sinful desires. That doesn't purify you.
No. And I think that's the benefit of being a devotee, is that, I guess, or having access to the Srimad Bhagavatam, is that pain and suffering combined with the Srimad Bhagavatam gives you the desire to actually change. Whereas, because you're actually hearing why you're suffering, and you're going deeper. Okay, it's the desires for material things which are worse. So it's not like you just want to give up the sinful activity, you want to uproot it at the source, at the root.
Yeah.
It's this desire to enjoy separately from Krishna.
And also, there's a cleansing taking place. I remember I've been a devotee for maybe a couple of years, and I went back to Manchester to see my parents. And on the way across, coming along on the other side of the road, was my old girlfriend. So, and I was really enamored by her. I thought she was really like an angel, And I saw her, and she didn't look very pretty at all. And I was thinking, well, the process must work, because to a certain degree, my vision of her was colored by the tinted rose glass of love. And so she looked incredibly beautiful to me, But that had been subdued to a certain degree after a couple of years of Sankirtan and Sadhana. And I looked at her then without that impelling influence of lust there. And it was like, well, we've not got a lot in common. That was the first thing I could say. She doesn't really know me. I've never really taken the time to know her. And just based upon the physical side, there's nothing there,
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, Taraknath gave a class, Sunday feast class, and he was talking about the Siren's song. Like the sailors would go, and if you listen to the Siren's song, and you looked at this island, they were the most beautiful, most attractive, wonderful women of all time. But if you covered your ears, you could see that they were actually witches, and they were trying to bring you to the island to kind of eat your flesh, kind of thing.
Wow.
So like they'd always plug their ears, but one of them said, "Let me hear the song." You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just interesting, like that idea of the lust is like the siren song, which covers the reality of the matter is that desire is going to cause you to suffer with repeated birth and death, and it's the actual prison bars of, like Prabhupada says that in the third canto, it's the bars which keep the living soul bound in this world, but what we perceive to be our pleasure is actually our highest cause of suffering, So we have to kind of plug our ears from the siren song with the Srimad Bhagavatam.
And also armed with knowledge is interesting, because you have to, Shastra and Astra is very similar. You have to acquire the knowledge, the weapons, and you have them ready to cut down the illusion. So when you see the breasts of a woman or a form, you have to cut down that illusion and remind yourself that this is just blood and flesh that's been shaped. I mean, imagine if you made the most beautiful woman made out of stool, and you said, "Oh, what do you think of her?" And you sprayed the stool pink so it looked like skin, and you said, "Don't you think she's nice?" So basically, it's just stool, and it's given because it's in that form. We're given and then with our knowledge, we have to be able to, as that illusion is being cast upon us. Wow, look at this! You can really enjoy this. Remember, no, it's the form has given me the impression that this is Satchit Ananda, but it's not a spiritual form; it's a material form, which has just been made in the shape as a reflection. And so the knowledge has to always be ready there. You unsheathe it, and as that illusion goes to entice you, you slash it down with what it really is,
Yeah, really, it's like it's just, for me, hearing this type of subject matter is really enforcing that idea of like having to constantly go to Bhagavatam class and read the Bhagavatam and read Bhagavad Gita. Like even this morning, Dave Maria Maharaj gave class. We have like all of the celebrities here at the moment.
Far out, we all get as a few sheep.
You are? Because of the sheep. But he was saying that he's talking about the two potencies of Maya, like the cover and the pushing. Yeah. And he was just saying, like, yeah, this is how it kind of works. It's like you sort of think, oh yeah, this isn't so bad. I'll do some kind of activity. It's not exactly Krishna conscious, but I deserve to enjoy. I've been doing Krishna consciousness for 5 years, 10 years, whatever. But and then there's not really an immediate reaction to doing that wrong thing. And then you kind of think, okay, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. And then eventually you get covered then. Like the covering potency comes in. So that's like the throwing potency. Is it like it throws you out of Krishna consciousness, but you don't even realize it. It's very tricky. It's like, yeah, it wasn't even so bad. It was quite nice actually, but then you become covered. And you said once you're covered, then the path back to Krishna consciousness becomes very difficult, And like I personally experienced that just by clinging on to like the morning program. It's made me realize that I've been pushed or I've been kicked off. Like that pushing potency has happened on me and I didn't even realize it. And it prevents the covering from happening because I'm still doing the morning, still going to Bhagavatam class, still hearing,
Reminds me of the last chapter of Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. And the brahmachari is admitting that he's taken a fancy to this devotee's wife. Finds her very beautiful, and he's being honest about it, and he's telling the devotee, "I'm attracted to your wife." And so he's encouraged in the story. I think he goes to Govinda Maharaj, and Govinda Maharaj says, "You need to rededicate yourself to the morning program and follow it more enthusiastically." So he does that. And then the illusion abates, and he goes, and he's back on track. He doesn't go into white and go down that road. I was just wondering whether that's what the sannyasis see sometimes. They see someone coming, they're very enthusiastic, they get hit by the material energy. The material energy convinces them that they can't overcome this. And all the time they've slackened in the morning program. If they were to just reaffirm their commitment to following everything nicely in the morning program, then they would override rather than trying to tackle the illusion with this compromised morning program. And there's a nice quote by Bhaktisiddhanta. I think there's 22 gems. And one of them is, "We are put to test and trial in this material world, and only those that attend the kirtan of Hare will be victorious." So I was thinking, you have to attend the kirtan. It's not that you can just go and chant extra rounds. You need the association of devotees. You need the morning program. You need the Bhagavatam class. Then you'll be victorious. Prabhupada's given us everything that we need. If we neglect it and then we're struggling, we're fools,
Yeah, we have to take advantage. Like that's just hearing Dave Mrita Maharaj singing Jai Radha Madhava. It's like you're kind of dipping your toe into Vrindavan. Like you can feel the whole spiritual world is there in such a simple song, and you just turn up, like just being there for that is just.
Well, isn't it far out, in the Nectar of Instruction, that text, instruction 4, Dadati Pratiginati Guyamakti Prichati Bungtai Bochai Chiteva said with him Priti Lakshana. Prabhupada says in the Prabhupada, the real Dadati principle of charity is that an older devotee leads kirtan. He gives his taste for the name for others that are engaged in the kirtan. This is the real contribution principle, the real charity principle. You find an advanced devotee, you get him to lead a kirtan, and you respond, and he will then invite you into Vrindavan, and his consciousness, you'll be able to share it through his relish. I remember when Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj, I was actually singing in Manchester, the Samsara Davana Lila Guru Vastika. And I was wondering why I was singing so well. I was thinking, I don't normally sing this well. It was like it wasn't my coming out. I was thinking, this is incredible. And I looked around, and Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj was just kind of swaying with his eyes closed. He was like drinking it, So he's so empowered. He's kept, with even realizing I'm kind of getting sucked into this taste that he's got for it, and I'm being used as like a mouthpiece. So I was like, wow, the power of. I mean, he's really, he's definitely Ruchi. I think he's definitely got a taste,
Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. Like you can just with Dave Maharaj, he's somewhere else when he's singing. He's there. You can. It just change. Everyone's like, yeah, and it makes you want to be there. It makes you want to go there, and if you're just chanting on your own in your room and you're not really going to morning program and you're not plugging into this morning program, you're missing out on that experience in one sense, right?
Yeah, I think what's going on right now in ISKCON as well is these devotees that aren't attending the morning program so well, they've maybe been around for a few years. What happens is they start losing faith, because it's amazing. I was listening to some old kirtans of Shiv Ram Maharaj when he was singing at the manor. And I remember on a Sunday being in those kirtans. We were going for like 3 hours, 4 hours. And it gave you so much faith, you know, just on a very profound level. You just knew that this person was bona fide. He was doing the best that he could. But people that don't have that access to that, they're on the periphery, they just get more and more doubts. They're thinking he's faking it, you know, and they don't really get that suffusion of faith transmitted through kirtan. And then that helps you to push aside maybe external imperfections that devotees that are not in such conscious. In fact, my wife was just telling me a far out thing this morning. When you have a palace, the ants find all the cracks in the palace because they don't have the capacity to stand back and see how. So you have some wonderful devotee that's doing profound work spreading Krishna consciousness, and an ant-like person, he just finds the cracks and goes for them. He can't see the big picture of what he's actually achieved, you know, how amazing it is what he's achieved.
Yeah. Like I always like kind of, because everyone talks about the Welsh Yatra and how successful we are with Sankirtan and so on. And it always comes back to these Sunday kirtans with Tarkanath.
Yeah.
And it just like galvanizes everyone. Like we're all there with Gauranitai and he's leading, and that's the real potency of the Welsh Yatra in my eyes, that kirtan, you know, that group, Sankirtan.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's doing this. And because of his sincere desire to want to please Shiv Ram Maharaj, Krishna sends along men that facilitate it.
Yeah, we got 4 or 5 new boys just moving into the ashram in the past 3 months, 4 months. Like, it's just really, because we've got this new center, it's really, we need the manpower. So Krishna's just sending it. So
and it's really good. The other devotees that have been around longer, for a few years, they can help the new ones get to learn the ropes, which helps them to recommit to the whole process, because they can't be doing everything sloppily and trying to show somebody else. They've got to be shown that they're into it. Yeah. So it's good for everybody, you know.
Keeps it fresh, definitely. Yeah, it's
and now you're an older devotee, they're looking up to you. What do you think? Obviously you've got some profound realization.
Do we want listen, ask someone else.
That's why it's, you know, Bhakti tradition is so good, because even if you've only been a devotee for a week, when you go out on the street, 99.9% of the people you meet, you know 1,000,000 times more than they do.
Yeah. You can go to Oxford and speak to an Oxford Uni student, and you know more, you know what I mean? Like a Sanskrit scholar, and you know more about the Bhagavad Gita than he does.
Yeah.
We've had that. Some of our devotees like defeat, like he's been in the ashram for 2 months and he's just defeating an Oxford guy, you know, like about philosophy. But yeah, it's interesting. Just back to the theme of submissive oral reception, because we started doing, myself and a couple of the kind of devotees in our 30s, we started going to like jiu-jitsu training for exercise, like it's kind of Vaishnav sport, wrestling, you know. And I was just thinking about, because it's called submission and grappling. So like this idea that you're fighting someone and they submit you and you have to tap, and you're basically admitting that, okay, I'm weaker than you. You've defeated me, and if you don't tap, you get your arm snapped.
Oh,
you know, like. So I was thinking about this theme of like submission, and like the Gajendra, the elephant. At some point, he had to realize, okay, I'm weak in this situation, in this material world. Yeah. This crocodile is going to defeat me, and he had to tap out. He had to submit. And just thinking like this chanting in that kind of mood, or being in a kirtan in that mood, is I'm terrible on my own. I'm just going to commit sin after sin after sin. I got all these desires in my heart, and like submissively chanting in the kirtan, or you know, chanting japa or hearing the Bhagavatam in that mood, it always seems to unlock something. You know, like to surrender, like give up.
It's interesting because it turns the whole thing on its head, because we're thinking we have to go and do some submissive hearing. But actually what's really happening is we're doing some unsubmissive resistance. We are resisting it. We're fighting against it. And then suddenly we just decide, okay, I'm finished. And we surrender. So that's when we give up the fight. So what we're actually doing is we're proactively resisting the philosophy, because we're restless and we're voidists and we're attached to material things and we like sinful activity. That's actually our default. And if we don't be submissive and surrender, then that's what we do. We just carry on fighting with the material energy. You know, we think we're being complicit with the material energy, but actually the material energy is trying to get us to bow down and go to our knees. And when we're resisting doing that, and then actually we're fighting, the material energy is trying to teach us a lesson. Look, bow down, you're not the controller. I'm trying to show you you're not the controller, you're not the enjoyer. And we're fighting against the material energy trying to teach us that, you know. So then to be submissive and surrender is to say, okay, look, the game's a bogey. Forget it. I'm your servant. Like that song, I surrender, I surrender. I'm giving up the role of pretender.
Yeah. It's easier said than done, though, isn't it, to kind of tap out? Because it seems like this automatic mode of just like going, like the way you naturally act is you're not surrendered. So it's like
when you're shaving up in the mirror and you've got to go the opposite way to what you think it is, you know. And then by looking at your progress in the mirror, you realize that's actually the right way and the hair's coming off. But otherwise, if you were to just allow yourself to go by what it looks like, you would keep doing it in the wrong direction. So like that, we've got to rethink, we've got to retrain ourselves that we don't just react to things according to our conditioning, but we process the information and then we have it ready, we memorize it, we have it accessible, and then we use it, you know. And as we go on, we should have more and more weapons in the chariot, so that when we're on the battlefield and this comes up, we know right away, okay, it's one of those ones. You're gonna have to, you know. I find that sloka, she ran most time to let this Victor Rajavadave Adam Chavishnu Shradam Vitoni Shunayad Atavanayad Ya Bhaktim Param Bhagavate Pati Labya Kaman Hidrogam Ajvapa Hinoti Achare Nadira. Submissively hear or describe the Lord's playful pastimes with the young maidens of Braj, and that will immediately engage you in pure devotional service, Bhaktim Param Bhagavati. And Guru says the pure devotional service is referring to his Manjari Bhav, actually. And then that will make you sober, and that will destroy the disease of lust in the heart. So it's not what you would normally think to do, you know. You'd think, well, I've got all these lusty desires coming into my mind, and now I'm being asked to contemplate on Krishna and his pastimes. But it's amazing how it works. It just evaporates all these perverted, kind of contrived fantasies revolving around me being the center of the enjoyment and me being the enjoyer and the controller. And suddenly Krishna's shifted into the center and he's the one. And I'm just like trying to serve or facilitate that way in whatever humble way that I can.
Yeah, I definitely had that sense when I was reading Navraj Mahima. Like, you hear these pastimes of Krishna and Radharani, the divine couple, and their loving affairs. And it's just so lovely and wonderful. And when I was reading it, it made me think, wow, the material reflection of this is so distasteful in comparison to how beautiful this is, and how, it's just so much more attractive. And you just can't do that in the material world.
And another far thing is, you know, you have this fantasy, so you're thinking, okay, I'll enact this fantasy. But after it, everyone will be miserable. You'll be miserable that you did it.
Yeah.
You'll be miserable that you went along with it. Everyone will be miserable. And then you'll be like, okay, we need to get rid of this now. We need to purify ourselves. We need to chant 64 rounds, go to the Holy Dome. So why even bother in the first place when it's going to create so much work for you to have to do to try and rectify it and get back to where you are just now, and just don't do it, you know?
Yeah, it's the whole throwing potency, though, isn't it? It's like material energy is just like, yeah, it'll be fine, it'll be wonderful. It's what you used to love doing that kind of stuff anyway, like whatever it is. It's
Yeah, that came up in class the other day. One devotee was fed up of his mind, nagging him all the time, and he just turned around. I think he was on Sankirtan. He just turned around and said, "Well, what do you want me to do? Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it, because I'm just fed up with this." And the mind says, "Well, you can keep all the money. We can leave Krishna consciousness, get some decent clothes, get some ecstasy, and we'll go to a rave." So he said, "We'll do it, So he was there in the rave, smiling away, because he was saying ecstasy makes the muscles in your cheeks make you smile. So And so he says to the mind that, "Well, I hope you're happy now." And then you know what the mind said to him? "You know you're going to go to hell." It's like, I'm going to go to hell. But you said to do it. And then the mind said, "Well, you should know not to follow what I'm asking you to do. You've read the Bhagavad Gita. You an idiot. But you said to do it. Well, you're not supposed to just follow me because I said do it." So the mind completely, it goaded him into it. And then when he did, it just backed off, says, "Don't blame me. You shouldn't have done it. You should have known better." So you think you're going to make the mind your friend. The only way you're going to make the mind your friend is disciplining it. That's the only time. Because if he just said no, and carried on a 4-day Sankirtan, then the man would have said afterwards, I'm really proud of you, actually. I came on strong. You pushed me aside. You did the right thing. We're really going to be going places. This could be our last lifetime. I'm so proud of you. That's actually what the mind would do. Is not far out.
Discipline. Interesting word, discipline.
That's the yeah.
To discipline the mind means what? To kind of
Apple.
Yeah.
Because you alternatives with the mind, this is the far out thing. It's either your best friend, or Krishna says it remains your greatest enemy. He doesn't say there's like an area in between where it's kind of half your friend and half it's your friend, or it remains the greatest enemy. So that to me I would surmise that that's the point where you reach nishta, where you become fixed, and then the mind becomes a friend. Up until the mind can make you fall down, it can make you not do your duty. But when you push the mind and hammered it 10 to 15 years steady service, the mind's finally like, okay, I get it. We're just going to do this because we're going to do it. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to put any opposition. I'm going to go on with this.
So that hammering the mind means to like follow the process for long enough where it kind of gives up.
Hammering the mind means enthusiastic, confident for a sustained period of time, not just for 6 months or during the marathon, every day of the year. They have this saying, right? Dogs are not just for Christmas. But Sankirtan's not just for Christmas.
Yeah.
Sankirtan full-on surrender is for every day of the year, not just once a year when everyone's going to see how good you are, and you do it out of prestige, or could possibly be doing it out of prestige.
Yes, it's that idea of doing something every day. I found this Japanese word. It's called kaizen. Kaizen, and kai means little, and zen means better. And it's this principle of getting a little bit better every day. Kaizen. Yeah. I quite like that. Like each day, you're just trying to improve what you did yesterday, and it's like they use it in business. I think Toyota, the car company,
that they're getting a little bit better every day.
Yeah, but you can use that principle for Krishna conscious too, isn't it? Like a little bit better japa, a little bit better reading. Yeah.
Well, there's a word in this verse by Rupa Goswami, Tunde Tandavani Ratim, Tunde Tandavani Ratim, Vitanute, Tundavali Labdaye, Kana Kroda Kadambani Katayate, Kana Budaya Spriham, Cheta Prangana Sangani Vijayate, Savendriyanam Kritem, Najane Janita, Kiadbia, Amritai Krishnati, Vanadvai. So Kiyadia means of what measure? Of what measure has Varnadvaya of the two syllables of Krishnati. How much Amritai? Kiyadia. How can we measure how much Amritai? Krishnati Varnadvaya. How much nectar the two syllables Krishna produce. So it's interesting that we're talking about how we're going to measure something which is unlimited. But in the process of trying to do that, then one desires many miles and many millions of years to try and do it. But it's an ocean of nectar. So how is it ever possible to really measure it? But like that word that Toyota use, Kiad Bia, what measure? And it's interesting because they say that whatever you measure improves. So which is mode of goodness, isn't it? When you're measuring something, what time did I get up this morning? How good were my rounds this morning? How much sanking did I do this week? How many books did I distribute? How much Lakshmi? If you keep a track of what you're doing, then you'll automatically improve.
Yeah. It's being more conscious, isn't it? Proactive rather than reactive as well.
Yeah. And I find it so encouraging because I did Sanctum for a long time, and I'm doing it now here and there when I get a chance. I'm trying to get out as much as I can, and it was great. I have no regrets at all, But there were times when it was very, very difficult to push through the whole day, and we were dropped off at 9, and then we'd meet at like 6, 7 in the evening, and it was just full on. So one of the ways I was able to get through it was I would break the day down into hours, just go for an hour, and I'd say, well, let's just see what I can do from now till 10, and then from 10 till 11, and that way I broke it down, and then the day became 8 days rather than just one full-on day. You'd have your good hours and your not so good hours. And if it was a bad hour, it's like, okay, that hour's over now. Let's see if we can do better in this hour. We do it fresh, So I would advise the boys that if they're on Sankirtan sometimes and they're thinking, oh my God, I've got to do this 7 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 12 months a year, and I've got 50 years left. Oh my God, 10 million times. Then okay, well, okay. All I know is I can just deal with this next hour. So let's see how I can get through this hour, and maybe at the end of this hour, I'll meet someone nice, and then it'll pick up. I'll break through. Let me just do the 1 hour, and then after that we can look at it.
Amazing. It's like I heard, because I've been listening to some stuff about business, and these kinds of concepts come up there as well. I heard some guy who breaks his day into 6-hour chunks, and then he has 3 days in every day. He said he was being a bit mad. He's like, I manipulated time, so now I have 3 days every day, so my year is 3 years long. But if you break it down like that, it makes it more digestible, doesn't it?
You devotees in Wales have got a great chance because I think the challenge is always going to be to not take the easier path. The path of least resistance seems to be the one that's going to be the easiest, but it actually ends up being the most difficult. Whereas if you embrace the path of austerity, it becomes like nectar in the end. But the sooner you can address that, I mean, how long do we have to do Sankirtan? Until we want to, because when you want to, you won't have to do it anymore. So it's like that with everything. When you submissively, when you submit yourself wholeheartedly to practicing Krishna consciousness, that's when it becomes easier.
Submission.
I surrender. I give up. I surrender. Which is similar to understand in the Govardhan Leela. They stand under. They decide to take shelter of Krishna and have faith. I mean, you're going to need a lot of faith. There's a little boy. How old is he? 6 or 7 years old, 8 years old. He's got this massive mountain on his thing, and he's asking you to stand under it. And you're thinking, I think I'll take my chances out here. I've got an umbrella with me. Well, but he's asking you to go under. So if you stand under Krishna's shelter, then you'll understand. You submit yourself to hearing this and accepting it and applying it, and then the understanding, the shelter will come,
Yeah, this David Maharaj said that this morning. Sooner or later, you have to accept that Krishna has your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Like sooner or later,
Yeah.
we've got to accept, this is best for me. Like, and take shelter of the holy name in those circumstances.
Yeah.
It's become magicians of submission.
Is that what he said? Magician.
I just came up with it.
Oh, yeah.
Magician of submission, rather than on a mission for position.
Yeah. Yeah, these are good things to write down. I'm trying to do it myself on my phone. I've got a section now where I'm just writing little things down, which are like seed ideas. And then when I have time, I could expand upon that, you know?
Yeah, class notes and things like that.
Yeah.
Like every word that Dave Maharaj was saying is just like, and that's, like when he came in at Guru Puja, I was like that. This is the Guru. Like, this is Dave Maharaj. Like, just help me. Like, I surrender. Just help me. Whatever you say, I just surrender. Like, before he gave class, and then in that mood, the class just becomes tailor-made for my situation in life right now. Like, it's kind of a glimpse into that.
Well, one thing that really blew me away, I'd heard about Guru Tattva, and I didn't really look into it. And I had to give a talk on Balaram's appearance day, I think it was. And so I started looking into it. And then Guru Tattva came up, and it's interesting. There's Jiva Tattva, there's Vishnu, there's Shakti Tattva. And then there's Guru Tattva. And Guru Tattva is a Jiva that has been empowered either by Balaram or Srimati Radharani or both. And then that it's no longer Jiva Tattva, it's Guru Tattva. So he becomes the conduit that will say just the things that you need to hear that are going to, and Balaram and Radharani will arrange it that those words will come out of his mouth and enter your ear because that's what you need to hear. And this person is acting as a transparent via medium.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like, because he's so many people's gurus here. It doesn't have to be your initiating guru. It's like he's the guru. Like he's like what you said. Like he's empowered to give this message. And you just got to kind of bow down and cry to such a person. Just like I need you. Like we need these people, we need these devotees. And that's the whole point of why Prabhupada set up so many temples, is to give us places where we can come and hear from these exalted souls.
And Prabhupada wanted two things, haven't been now on my third guru. Two things. One is the Acharya, but the other thing is the GBC. So Gaudiya Math, they've only got the Acharya. They neglected the instruction by Bhaktisiddhanta for GBC. And Ritviks, they don't like the idea of Acharya. Prabhupada's the Acharya, and everybody else can just be part of a governing body. So you've got either GBC, Ritvik, Acharya, Gaudiya Math, and then ISKCON is both. You need the Acharya there telling you, living in the flesh and blood, but then you also need a governing body, which are going to keep us faith to Srila Prabhupada's instructions, so that if the guru goes off the rails, then still we can continue on, we can still keep rendering devotional service, and we can still be productive in the society. So both things have to be there.
What ensures that the GBC's decisions are actually in line with Prabhupada's? Is everyone keeping them in check? I'm just curious.
Yeah, sometimes they may, like Shiva Ramaj has just quite openly said, I don't agree with this, but he follows that because Prabhupada wanted us to follow the GBC. So we don't blindly follow. We think, well, that doesn't seem quite right, but we know that Prabhupada would be pleased if we were compliant. So we go along with it, and then in due course of time we find out that it wasn't right. It was right, but we were right whatever way it was, because we decided we were going to follow what was wanted. And then if there is a problem, it's not our problem. It's the person or the persons who made the wrong decision. It's their problem,
Yeah.
I mean, it's good when you have a spiritual master who is very elevated, and he's aware of things, and he sees things for what they are. Then that keeps you safe, and at the same time you follow what we see. The spiritual master also, if the spiritual master isn't Uttama Adhikari, and he's only lowercase Majjhima or Kanishta, and he does fall down because maybe taking on all those disciples is just so much karma for him, and he has some problem, and he falls away. Then you have as the safety net, you still have that you're going to stay in Krishna consciousness. You're going to take reinitiation from another spiritual master because that's what Prabhupada wanted, and then you can stay still safe